Aye, we give you the facts. It's not what you think. Popeye Newsling, Young King, 1 yard, bless.
Good morning, Popeye. Grandma watch Popeyes every morning and every night.
The first verse of the national anthem, it goes like this. Sing with me. Yeah, man, stand up. Anywhere you are right now, get up and stand up. Stand at attention. You can't stand at ease. Eternal Father, bless our land. Guard us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. So, here's some sound, you know, when I was singing the chorus. Boom.
Papa, you are the general, down in a Jamaica, you are the marshal. Oh gosh, Papa, you are the general, down in a Jamaica, you are the marshal. Oh gosh, me same drive from Westmoreland, Richer Hanover. Him know every crevice, every corner. One get rid of every hoodlums in Jamaica. That's every foreigner, then can come back and you are the general. In a Jamaica, you are the marshal. Oh gosh, Papa, you're the general. In a Jamaica, you are the marshal. Oh well. Me want to see Popeye, fi shake off him hand. Him no afraid of hoodlums, he no afraid of no man. Cause him a the general, down a Jamaica, Popeye the marshal. Oh well. Papa, they love in England, I see boy. I mean, I tell us a piece smart TV they watch upon. Yeah man, big up your good self, man. Yeah man.
Howdy, 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 howdy. How wanna do? Good evening, good evening, good evening. How are you doing? Howdy, howdy, howdy. Anne Marie, Sir Neville Williams. Big up yourself, sir. K. Williams. Respect. Princess B. Big up yourself. Shan, Karine, Tech Gaming 44. Delos. Oh, yes, if you stick to vlogging. May I try, man. Show, man. Show Delos, man. Give me like a ratings, though, man. May I try. Ian, Girly Thunder. McKitty TV. Bless up on yourself. Marcia, Judith, Raven, Antoinette, Jacqueline, Bruce, Nevardo, Betty, Sharon Dawkins, Ivan Brown, Kimberly Lawrence, Judith Kidd. Are that Rose Pitch or Rose Rose Psych? Which one? Young Lion Entertainment, Zomaran, Shernet, Louise, Cleaner, Kimar, Jacqueline, Adrian, Phil, Yuna, Marley, Babe. How are you doing? So this evening we have our in-house U.S. immigration lawyer, Mrs. Esther McKitty Griffin. Uh, seem to have been. Oh, Esther is here. Hold on, we having some. Esther, log in back again. Log in again, Esther. We have Mrs. Esther McKitty Griffin, and we are gonna be discussing some U.S. immigration issues that I am sure might be important to a lot of you. So share the live. Tell a friend to come over because I am sure you're gonna hear something that you're gonna find interesting. So I'm waiting on Esther. She was on a while ago and something happened. Hold on a bit. Hold on. internet looks like it's lagging. I'm not seeing you now, Esther. Try again for me. Okay, let me try now. Let me try. Esther, there you are.
Yes, yes. Sorry about
Oh
that.
yeah,
The internet going foolish a while ago.
yeah, man. That's how you go. Technology. That's how it goes sometimes. So how you
Honestly.
doing? How you doing?
Good, good.
I understand you were in the yard and vacation. How you get some rest?
Yes, I got a little bit of rest.
I
I
can
mean,
understand
as
because it's
parents,
a
you don't
while now,
really.
Esther. Yeah, go ahead.
I said, as parents, you don't really get to vacation. You basically take care of your children in another city. So
Yes.
my two boys, them just stress me the whole time. So
Lord. Me see you
all
not
of
sing
the
out that
time.
church. Me see them a sing out at church when you're building a choir or something.
How you say all that, Jesus Christ?
Eh? Then
You
that
have
could have
eye
missed me, Esther.
everywhere. Dave,
That could have missed me.
you have eye everywhere.
Yeah, man. I saw the quartet, man.
You know, see me all get dark. Could it?
Yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
all dark? It's sun
Yeah,
hot, you
man.
know?
Yeah, man.
Me not do it out there. Sun too hot.
Yeah, but I tell you, it ain't pretty. It ain't
It
pretty.
wicked bad.
Yeah,
Honestly.
man. So this evening we're gonna talk about what's the topic for the evening?
We're talking about VAWA. This is the
Okay.
Violence Against Women's Act, is the law that it's under. So it's about abuse the spouses and children of US citizens and green card holders.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Oh, you want to get right to it?
Yes, man, right
Oh,
tonight.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those topics that a lot of people hear about simply because it is one of those areas it allows you to basically petition, self-petition, or as people say, file for themselves, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm going to use my notes here just so that I can kind of give some context to it. So basically, it stems out of the fact that, you know, people can come here and get married, but perhaps the person that they married has started to abuse them in some way or the other. So there's some amount of domestic violence. And of course, that puts the immigrant into a sticky position, if you want to say, because of course, we know that the immigration proceedings would have to start with that US citizen person. So if you married a man and him start beat you and him tell him, say, now file no papers for you, then, you know, before this law came around, then you basically had no options and you were stuck. And
Okay.
so Congress kind of realized that a lot of people were falling into this category and they did not have a way out. And so this law was enacted. The one I have, I think it's 1994 or so around that law was enacted. And it was just, you know, coming out of recognizing this plight that abused women, you know, immigrants. And it's not only women, women and men, because men get abused also. They recognize that these people were in this position. And so they created a way for them to be able to petition for themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess one of the first things people would ask, who are the persons that would apply?
Esther,
One
one second.
yeah,
Let me just
sure,
address something. Let me just
sure.
address something. For persons who are gonna ask questions, please, we are gonna deal with that topic first, and then we are gonna address. It makes no sense we stop in between and address your questions. So just save some of your questions until there's something to be learned right here. So just go ahead, Esther.
Right. So yeah, definitely that works. Yes, as I was saying, one of the first questions would be who are the persons that who would qualify under this provision? And so one set would be the abused spouses of US citizens or green card holder. So if you're married to a US citizen or you're married to a green card holder and you are experiencing some form of abuse in this marriage, then you would qualify for a VAWA self-petition.
Okay.
You could be the spouse of a US citizen where you are not being abused, but your children are being abused by your spouse. Then you could also qualify.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a thinnish line because it's almost like, you know, it's not very, I wouldn't say it's not common because I don't know everybody's story, but it would kind of be like, you know, I'm married to somebody and he's treating me fine, but he beats upon my son all the time.
Okay.
So in the
Okay.
same breath, I could petition because my son is being abused by this person.
Okay.
Then you have what they call abused intended spouses of US citizens and LPRs. And intended in this way is meant to define, for example, you got married to the person, but for some reason, after you got married, you found out that the marriage was not valid. So either there's some type of, bigamy or something going on. They were probably still legally married to somebody else. So your marriage was not valid. But you didn't know this, of course. So you entered into this marriage. Then you found out perhaps that the marriage is not valid, or you're being abused and also found out the marriage is not valid. You would also qualify because, of course, legally speaking, your marriage would not be a legal marriage. But this law is saying even in that situation, you could still apply. And then, for example,
and Esther, just 1 second. All of this only applies to if the spouse, if the person is in the United States.
Yes. Well, for the most part, yes.
For the most part, okay.
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I mean, you'd have people who sometimes who would have perhaps were in the situation and may have left, and perhaps are not no longer in the United States. There are options in that regard, but that's not very often. Most often, the cases that we see, the persons are still here in the United States.
Okay.
Then you also have the abused children of U.S. citizens and LPRs. So I'm kind of like half repeating myself, but I'm just giving each category. And then you have the abused parents of U.S. citizens. You have some people, they are U.S. citizens or green card holders. U.S. citizens, not LPRs, because these are parents. But your citizen and your parent is here with you in some way or the other, and you're abusing the parent, treating the parent bad, probably not giving them stuff to eat. It could be elderly parents, stuff like that. That elderly parent could also qualify under this provision.
Okay.
All right. So what are the requirements? So you find out, okay, I qualify because, yes, I'm married to a U.S. citizen and I'm being abused. So then what are the requirements? What is USCIS looking for? They're looking for what they call good moral character. And good moral character, they want to see that in the last 3 years, you probably haven't had any run-ins with the law. And I don't mean like a traffic ticket and stuff, but, but being arrested for some type of, not necessarily a felony, it could be a misdemeanor, some type of assault or whatever, it doesn't matter. But they want to make sure you're a person of good moral character. And I'll go into a little bit more detail a little further down.
Okay.
They want to see that you are married to this U.S. citizen or LPR. So you have to show, that there is a marriage, that there is a qualifying relationship, that the marriage was entered into good faith. Meaning, you met this person and things were working out, you met this person, you both intended to have a life together, not for immigration purposes. And then things started to go sour. Excuse me a second. Excuse me. What's that about? I feel like I coughed the last time too. What's that about? And then you have to show that you resided with this person. Either you currently reside with them or you used to live with them. But they do want to see that you would have also resided with the person. Sometimes you may be married to a U.S. citizen who is also in the armed forces. So that person may be abroad. So that's also another category that you'd look into also. Sometimes the person is not necessarily here. You may be stationed abroad because the person is military and you're overseas. So those persons also qualify.
Okay.
If there is a child overseas and the parent is being abused here, if, for example, the person is, so you're married to a person here in the United States, but you have a child back in the home country, that child can also benefit because the parent is being abused.
Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me. All right. I'm so sorry. So then we talk about residence. They want to know that you would have lived with the person. The length of time is not really, okay, so USCIS will push back if the length of time is not long. So I'll have people come to me, they're in a situation, but they've only been married a month or 2 months, and then they had to leave because of this abusive situation. It's not a bad thing if it's only been 2 months. When it becomes a bad thing is if it is that you have nothing to show me for this relationship, then it looks like you're scamming. So, you're with this person, you're married for 2 months, you can't show me any good wedding photos.
Mm-hmm.
You got nothing together. You keep telling me he don't like to take picture or he don't. Then it starts to look funny. So they do want to know that you would have resided with the person. The length of time, like I said, it's a big factor, but it's not major. And you wouldn't get a case denied if you only resided with them for a short period of time. The issue comes in is when you cannot prove that this marriage was a valid marriage, that at the inception of this marriage, it was for bona fide reasons, that the intent at that time was for both of you to have a life together.
Okay.
So that is like the main crux of this thing. Is this a good faith marriage and relationship? What was your intent when you got married? Even if the time was short, it doesn't matter. They're concerned about the intent at the time of the marriage. And quite often, once your intent is there, then everything else kind of falls into place.
Okay.
When you start, you can't have the evidence and the this, then you start getting pushbacks from USCIS. So like I said before, giving a bunch of excuses and stuff like that. I'm just kind of rambling around here a little bit.
Man.
You can, so what is normally filed? So what is normally filed is the form I-360, which is now the form I-360 actually covers about 8 or 9 different other categories for U.S. immigration. So most oftentimes when you're filling out that form, there'll be a portion of the form that doesn't apply to you if you're applying based on VAWA. So normally when we're doing the form, it's like a 16 or 18 page form, but maybe 8-9 pages out of it I won't even use because it has to do with other things like widowers or religious workers. There's a number of people who use that form. So we file the form I-360. We normally file evidence of the abuse. We normally file a declaration. And to me, that's one of the most important parts of the application, because that's where we get your story. That's where you get to tell me what happened. How did it happen? How it started. I met John one day when I was walking in Brooklyn and we went for lunch and the relationship went well. And then after a while, things got sour or whatever, we got married and then things got sour. Like you tell it to me down the line.
Yes.
So we paint the picture and show them this is how they met. This is how they came together. This is how things were going. This is when things started to go sour. And here we are now. This is where we at that part of the relationship, that issue and stuff. I know a question a lot of people have is really about the types of abuse. So abuse is not only physical, but of course, we're most thinking about physical. So we think about anything physical, kicking, slapping, whatever it is, biting, choking, whatever it is they're doing, they're spitting on you. All of that is physical abuse. There's also sexual abuse, because there's even, for example, you are married, and even within your marriage, wife or husband, if you're saying no and the spouse is still forcing themselves, that in itself can be, sexual abuse, and that can count towards VAWA too. If it's a thing, if it's a thing in your relationship and you have set boundaries and the boundaries are not being respected, all those things can be counted towards as abuse. Of course, a lot of times we see more of the non-physical types of abuse. And so we're looking at the intimidation and the isolation, and when they belittle you, and a lot of people deal with a lot of verbal abuse. And you'll have the spouse come in and tell the person, I'll use husband and wife because it's in terms of man speaking to the woman, because that's a lot more common, but it goes both ways. But you'll have the woman at home all day, the husband's a US citizen, and he comes home and he tells her, she ugly and she lazy and he can't stand her and he not filing the papers for her and he go and call immigration on her and that type of stuff. All of that type of stuff qualifies as abuse. I've had cases where one client, the husband would tie the woman up every day before he went to work.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy like that. Yeah, he would literally tie her up every day and go to work, tie her up, lock her up and go to work and come back. So people go through some very crazy situations. You also have financial abuse. You have some people, you'll be married and you can't work because you have no papers. They're going out to work and they give you no money. Your name is not on any bank accounts. So you only get money if they give you. And so
Yes.
what some of them will do, sometimes they'll buy groceries, sometimes they won't. And I've seen cases where they don't buy any groceries and the spouse is literally left in that house to starve or to call on friends or family members to say, hey, can you bring me some food type of thing. So
Yes.
you'll find that type of financial abuse also. So it varies. A lot of times when people come to me and I start asking them questions, then I can start, pulling it out of them. What exactly did you, experience? Because quite often
Yes.
they'll say, oh, he never hit me, or oh, she never hit me. And I'll be like, yeah, but tell me more about the relationship. Tell me what happened. And then I can start to get a feel of what are the types of abuse. USCIS uses this immigrant, this is called an immigrant power wheel. Forgive me if I'm calling the name wrong, but they kind of use this. It's like a chart, and it has
Yes.
different types of abuse on it. And so they kind of use that to kind of assess when we send in the statements and the forms and everything. They kind of use that as a guide to see what are the types of abuse that you are facing. Sometimes
Okay.
for some clients, I have to send them to get a psychological evaluation.
Oh.
Because some people, there's so much that they're dealing with. Oh my goodness. Are you still there?
Yeah, man, I'm here.
There. Okay. Somehow
Mhm.
everything jumped off the screen and I can't see you. And so I kind of lost. Okay, I'm back. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Mhm.
What was I saying? What was
Yep.
I saying? You know what I was saying? And anybody remembers what I was saying? Please type it in the chat. I completely lost my train of thought when that screen went off. Nobody helping me out? Nobody likes me? Oh my goodness. What was I
Are you
saying?
paying attention? Come on, people. Are you paying attention?
What was I saying before the screen went off on me? I was talking about immigration. Oh, the psychological evaluation. I
Oh,
remember.
yeah. That sense. Yeah. And the chart. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. So some people, some women end up depressed. Some start
Mhm.
having to take antidepressants. Some of them have to start going to therapy. There are just a number of things that happen. So when I have those extreme cases, quite often I will recommend that they go and also get an evaluation, and then we'll use that psychologist report in the
Yes.
application also. And I find that it strengthens the application because it shows, because of what has been happening to them, this is the effect it has been having on their life.
Okay.
So that's quite
Okay.
that's quite
Okay.
important. How long does it take to process?
Mhm.
VAWA is one of the longest processing types of application.
Really?
And a
Okay.
lot of people, because they self-petition, they think, oh, it should be faster. And many of my VAWA clients are, they end up being frustrated, not at me, at the system. It kind of
Yes.
sucks. So even right now, I checked before I came online. Currently, if you file an I-360, they are taking an average of 35 months to send you an approval.
Wow. Yeah.
That's 3 years. That's
Yes.
literally
Yes.
3 years. So now when people sign up with me, I let them know it's a long process. You have to be in it for the long haul.
Mhm.
While your VAWA application is processing, you can't remarry.
Oh.
The petition, yes. You'd have to
Oh.
wait until the petition has been approved if you wanted to remarry. So that
Oh.
frustrates a lot of people also because, they would have left the abuser, met somebody else, kind of want to move on with their life, but
Mhm.
they're kind of held hostage because they have to wait for this thing to process. And so, like
So
I
is it that they can't, or is it that if they get married, the process is null and void?
right, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Once it
Okay.
gets approved,
Yes.
then
Oh.
that's no longer an issue. Kind of like with special immigrant children when they could marry.
Yes.
It's kind of the same thing. That's one of
Yes.
the conditions. And people can file if you've moved away.
Mhm.
If you moved out of the house with the abuser, you can still you can file. If you still live there, you can file. If you have divorced the person, you can file. You have up until 2 years from the date of the divorce to file. A lot
Oh.
of people don't know that, right? And then some people, they are in the relationship, they're afraid to file because they're still living there, but they don't want to leave because they think perhaps that by leaving they would have forfeited their opportunity. They have not.
Oh.
You can leave, you can file for divorce, and you can still apply for VAWA. And like I said, if you are already divorced and it's been 2 years, less than 2
Mhm.
years, you can still benefit from it. So,
Oh.
and once it's time stamped, so for example, today is September 15, 2023. If somebody comes to me right now that got divorced, let's say September 20,
Yes.
2021, I could still overnight an application for that person as long as I get it in before, the 19th. As long as I get that application in, they would still have a chance. As long as it gets in before that 2-year anniversary, they're good. But once that 2-year anniversary has passed, that's it. Can't get in. So it doesn't make sense to say, well, maybe we didn't know. It doesn't matter. Once the 2 years has passed and you're divorced, you're no longer eligible for it.
Okay.
So like I said, it's taking about 35 months for the petition. If it is that you're married to a U.S. citizen and you're also doing a concurrent filing where you're filing the I-485, that application has its own processing time. I looked up Baltimore, it was saying 20 months. I looked at New York, I was seeing 17 months, and Florida, 21 and a half months. Now, Florida is big. I just chose, I think that was Miami. But you have Orlando, you have West Palm Beach, you have different areas in Florida. My point is the I-485 has its own processing time, which adds to that 35 months. Sometimes they are processing them concurrently, but quite often, after the I-360 has been approved, then there goes another waiting time for the actual green card. So it ends up being like a 4.5 year process.
Yes.
So what ends up happening is that, you can get a work permit. Recently, I've seen an influx of Jamaicans that have called my office. Some of them have already filed VAWA, and they're asking about a work permit, and they're saying to me, but I was told I was going to get a work permit and I haven't gotten it yet. And what I see happening is that whoever they filed with first, the attorney or whoever else helped them, filed the I-360. Now, the I-360 itself, the VAWA application, there is a provision that allows you to get a work permit. However, that work permit is only issued after the I-360 has been approved. So if you file today and you only file an I-360, you're only going to get that work permit after it has been approved, which may be 35 months, as I was telling you, with the current processing times.
Yes.
The only persons who get work permits while the I-360 is pending are those persons who also concurrently filed an I-485. With the I-485, there is a provision that allows you to also file a work permit application. That work permit will come while the case is pending. But if all you have filed is an I-360 and you're waiting on that work permit, it is not going to come until the I-360 has been approved.
Yes.
So quite a few persons I've talked to in the last few months, I had to explain to them, you actually need to file an I-485 at this point if you're trying to get a work permit while you wait.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that some people were they didn't know, and so I had to let them know that that was the that's what was happening.
Yes.
What else can I say about VAWA? Again, I was going to say something about the processing time. Oh, I was going to say, so the I-360 does not normally have an interview. The I-485 does. In these current times right now, as you know, they're waiving a lot of interviews.
Yes.
So I haven't come across any waived interviews for any of my clients recently. But one thing to note, if you do have an interview for the I-485 based on a VAWA, the officer is not allowed to ask you about the abuse.
Oh, really? Oh.
They're not allowed to, but they always try to, which is kind of why it's always important to have an attorney. Because quite often you'll go into that interview and then they start to ask you, what was it with the relationship? And they don't see any evidence of abuse. And sometimes they try to, malign your character or whatever it is to make it seem like you were perhaps the one at fault. There's a lot of that. So quite often we've been in interviews where we've had to say to the officer, the I-360 has already been adjudicated and approved. The issue here is not whether my client was abused. The issue at this point is for you to adjudicate the I-485, which is the green card application. And at that point, they just need to make sure that you don't have, pending criminal charges, you don't have any admission issues or whatever it is. That's what they need to be focused on, not on the abuse. But quite often, the officers love that they come in kind of sideways, trying to ask persons about the abuse. And it can be a trigger because you went through this whole traumatic thing. And then here comes this person asking you about it again. So even that in itself, we have to say to them, like, they are not allowed to re-traumatize our clients.
Yes.
One other thing I should say, I mentioned earlier that, men are also abused. A lot of times there's a stigma attached to it. And a lot of men don't come out because they feel like it's embarrassing to say, oh, this woman abused me, because, suddenly it's almost like they're a punk or something, but it's not. There's so many ways. I see it a lot. I'll give a classic example sometimes. For example, kind of like how Stella got her groove back kind of story.
Okay.
Pardon me, anybody who may start feeling offended at this example, but it's something that I see a lot.
Yes.
You'll see, for example, like I was in Jamaica at the hotel,
Yes.
and these nice ladies come to the grill.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, early 40s and stuff, and they single, ready to mingle.
Mm-hmm.
And they come and they hanging out at the bar, and the bartender is nice and young and cute type of thing. And
Yes.
suddenly they start, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, that in itself, I find out when those men sometimes come to the US, then the tables turn.
Yes.
And those women start to, berate those men and belittle them and talk down to them and hang certain things over their heads, take their passports and stuff, which kind of is a perfect segue even into what I was going to say earlier, is that, so as you know, people know about the removal of conditions. Sometimes you get the green card.
Yes.
Green card is for 2 years. And that's because when you got married, you were married for less than 2 years when you applied for the green card. So you get a conditional residency, and you have to show them that the marriage is still in good faith before you get the 10-year green card. A lot of people end up at that point where it's time for them to get the green card, but suddenly they're dealing with abuse from the spouse. Things were nice, and now things have gotten sour. Now they need their 10-year green card, and things have gone crazy. So that's another way where VAWA comes into play. Because at that point, these people can use VAWA to be able to get their 10-year status to show, the marriage was entered into good faith. Things were going really well. But ever since, I got the green card, or ever since I came up to the United States, you have some people, they come here, and when they get to the US, the person has deserted them.
Yes.
Some of them, they come to the spouse's house, and they don't give them the green card. And so they have to leave and to go stay with family members. All those persons would start qualifying under this.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the.
You have covered a lot. Yeah, you have covered that whole.
I don't know if I said enough, but yeah. So.
Yeah, man, you have covered that whole. I know of somebody. It was this week. I was talking to a friend. She had filed VAWA, but she got a 10-year green card in the first go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because more likely, because most times, because if you file VAWA, think about it. By the time they're taking 4 years, you would have been married,
Yes.
And there's some people you may have filed an I-130 already. And the I-130 is either pending or already approved, and then things start to go sour. You can still file VAWA. In fact, if you have an approved I-130, it strengthens your VAWA case because USCIS has already determined that your marriage was a bona fide marriage. So if you have an approved I-130, things have gone sour, and you now file an I-360, you're more likely you're going to get approved because you've already proven that the marriage you were in was a valid marriage.
Valid marriage, yes.
Yeah.
So you're saying that because I know before, if somebody a man and a woman gets married, and the man starts abusing the woman, and he decide that he's not putting in the papers. The lady can self-petition.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Another example, sometimes, just like I said, the person, you would have filed the I-130.
Mm-hmm.
You filed the I-130 and the I-485. So, you met the person, life is good, everybody like each other, they decide to get married, they put in the paperwork. So everything has been filed and it's pending. And all you're waiting for is the interview date, and things start to get funny. They start show your bad face, them starting to come in or whatever it is, whatever issues you start to face, whatever it is, and things are not looking good, and you're realizing they probably start telling it to your face. They're not going to the interview and they're not helping you and too bad for you or whatever it is.
Yes.
Even at that point, you can file an I-360. Quite often what we do, we ask USCIS to hold that green card application until we can file the VAWA application.
Oh.
That's called, we ask them to hold that I-485 in abeyance while we file an I-360 for the client. Now, they don't have to say yes. And if they don't say yes, it just means you lose all your money in your filing fees from that 485, and you're going to have to file a new one. That's just the bottom line.
Yes.
But quite often, if we are told early enough, because sometimes, I mean, I've had people hire me like the day before the interview. And to say no, because the spouse of them not coming, or them can't find them, or the person move up, pack up and gone, change them number, they can't find them, or whatever it is, they've been, deserted. And they've come to me the day before. There have been times when, I would have to walk into that interview with them and ask the officer, can you hold this application, this I-485 green card interview? Can you give us basically a continuance and allow us to file a VAWA application?
Somebody was asking, you are saying that as soon as the abuse starts, you have to report it?
That would be good. I mean, I guess by report it, you mean like to a police or something?
Yes. I think that's what the person means. Yes.
Evidence is always good. It's always good, because if not, when I start asking you what happened, I mean, sometimes we will only have the person's statement, and at that point we really dig. But it's preferable that, if it is you're facing some crazy things, report it.
Yes.
And I'm not encouraging people to just be and forgive me, I'm just like spiteful,
Spiteful and tell lies. Yes.
Suddenly your husband have an argument to call in the police just to make sure you have the record just in case. Like, don't do that.
Yes.
And I'm saying, if you married to a man and him come home from work and him have argument and him mash up your dress and throw down your perfume and mash up the things, take pictures of it.
Yes.
Make a police report, him damage your property or whatever, like that type of stuff. Like, say something about that.
Just to segue a bit, does the age of the person, like a child, does it matter if a child overstays? If the child overstays in the United States and leave, they're in trouble, right?
If a child overstays,
somebody's asking if a child.
That's a very broad question.
Okay.
Up until age 18.
Yes.
They would not have accrued unlawful presence.
Oh.
But it's still, when the time does come for whatever form of relief the child is going to qualify for, in some cases, you may need a waiver and sometimes you may not. And I've seen cases where sometimes they also send the child out to be able to allow them to consular process, to go to the embassy and be able to come back without issues like the child is like 17, we realize what's going on, we send them up before their 18th birthday to be able to consular process them or something. So it varies. It's not a straight black and white, answer to say, well, there are a lot of factors that go into it.
Yes.
Because it's going to come down to what type of relief will the child get, Is it now a parent trying to file for the child? You're just trying to reapply for a visa. There's so many things to consider. So it's pretty.
Someone here is saying that her husband filed for his mother. It's been 9 years now. Get nothing.
Okay, hold on. So he would, and is the mother a U.S. citizen?
Well,
the mother's a U.S. citizen, more than likely, because he's married. So
No, the person said my husband
Right. So
was
that means,
filed for
right. So
by
more
his
than
mother.
likely,
Okay.
so more than likely,
Yeah.
the mother's a U.S. citizen
You're a
because that's the
citizen.
only
Yes.
way he should have been able to file for a married adult child.
Okay.
Unless she filed for that son when he was unmarried. She's a green card holder. Now he's gotten married and the petition is dead.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oh.
just making assumptions here because I don't have anything more on it. But
Yes.
if it
Yes.
is that the mother's a citizen, she filed for her married son. I think the processing times now, I think it's 2008. So 2008 until now is what, almost 15 years? It could be a little bit less than that. But my point is 9 years may be still within their processing times.
Oh, okay.
I would have to check the visa bulletin to see what they are currently processing right now and kind of to give them a gauge of what they're processing for married adult children of U.S. citizens.
Somebody's saying, hold on.
Shall petition. Right now, those petitions are taking 13, 14 months in some cases, even more.
What?
Yeah, normally it used to be 6 months, and I have stuck my foot in my mouth a lot over the last year, telling new clients, oh, we'll get an approval in 6 months. And now I'm sitting here looking stupid because now they're like, why haven't gotten an approval yet? And I'm like, because the processing times keep extending and extending and extending, and there's nothing I can do about it. Normally it would have been like 6, 8, 9 months. Now I'm more getting approvals at the 12, 13, 14 month mark, and I still have people waiting. Nothing wrong with the case, clean case, just waiting.
I think this person's gonna need a lawyer. When I was 14 years old, my dad used to abuse me in America, send me back to Jamaica, and he took away my papers.
How long ago was that?
That is the thing. Yeah, how long ago?
Right.
And
yeah, that person would definitely need to call in to give me some more context. Not calling now,
yes.
but call the office to give us some more context because there's some more questions that I have to ask, and things like this are usually of a private nature.
Yes, yes.
And one of the things I should point out that even with VAWA, USCIS does not contact the abuser at all. So sometimes people are afraid to file it because they think the person is going to find out. The person is only going to find out if you talk. If you talk, I'm going to tell a friend and chat and then go tell back. Probably that's the way that they're going to hear.
Yes, yes.
But when you file with USCIS, in fact, most times the notices comes to our office, both notices. For privacy's sake, it all comes to the attorney. So nothing goes to the person's house because they don't know if you still live there.
Yes, yes.
And so everything comes to the attorney, a safe address. And so nothing will go where they suspect you may have lived or whatever it is. So people don't have to fear that, the person is going to find out. But I can understand them being fearful, especially if there's a lot of, physical abuse and threats and, harm has been done in the past and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, there are provisions there here for you, and you don't have to, suffer and live in the shadows because of what may have happened or what you may be currently going through.
Yes, yes. The person is saying from 2019, but I'm advising you 876 Turban, the number on the screen. Just send a message to it on Monday. And contact
it's Friday night. You realize it's Friday night.
Yeah.
I was gonna say tomorrow. Oh no, tomorrow's Saturday.
Somebody's asking where's the office? The office is in Maryland.
We're in Maryland, Glen Burnie, Maryland, just south of Baltimore, like 20 minutes out of Baltimore.
Yeah.
20 minutes outside of Baltimore.
Somebody's asking how long does it take? Does that question need some more?
For a U.S. citizen to file for her husband. I'm assuming they're asking if the same like most people, how long the petition takes to be approved. Like I was saying earlier, I'm seeing that the U.S. citizen petitions are taking upwards of 12 months to be approved. Not saying it can't be less, and if it happens in less, great. But if it doesn't happen within the requisite 6 to 9 months, just know that current processing times are around about 12 months, 12, 13, 14 months. I have a guy right now. He filed for his mother. And he filed for his mother last May 1st. And today is September 15th. And there still has not been an approval on that case.
Oh, okay.
Right. And we're just at the point where we can ask USCIS, why is it taking so long? Before we were not within the time frame to even ask them why it's taking so long.
Yes, yes. Somebody's asking if you overstay your visa and got married and you returned to Jamaica. I don't understand that. And
And
you
return to
returned.
Jamaica for your interview. Is there more to the question that I can see, or that's it?
I'm not seeing the rest of it.
Probably still typing.
Yeah, Gerando. Gerando, I'm not seeing that question. One love, that question was answered. So I said about 16 months.
How long a petition takes when a child filed for their parents? And I'm assuming, yes, that would be a child who is, quote unquote, 21 and over, because that's how old you have to be to file for your parents. So just like I was saying before, it's in the 12 months and more range right now. It can be less, but typically that's what's happening now. If somebody files, I think I filed some petitions last August. Those came through in the last 5-6 weeks. So that's like a 12-month mark.
Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I see that. Not necessarily. I mean, it still is going to depend on how much he's earning. If he can, it would be good to have something to say that he is actively, paying it, that type of
Yes.
stuff. But most times they don't really focus on the petitioners that much in terms of their life and their history, unless there's been some type of child sexual abuse thing in their history. Then it may pose a problem. But like some people have married persons who are incarcerated, so they don't really focus that much on the US citizen. It's the immigrant that gets a lot of the scrutiny. They're looking at you to say, make sure you don't do anything crazy. A lot of people, they're in process and they're getting like pulled over for driving without a license. Or they're getting, some kind of minor charge, whatever it is. They get into a fight with somebody. It's not worth it. Or they go into a store and they shoplift. It's not worth it. Like, they're just a number of things that the immigrant does. That's when things start to go crazy. Yeah. When things start to go crazy.
Let me see what the question here. Can grandparents file for grandchildren?
No.
No, that was answered before.
No, they're not able to. No, I say a blanket no, but it is that sometimes it could be that perhaps the grandparent may be allowed to adopt the child or something, So
Yes.
I say a blanket no, but of course there are small exceptions in some ways. For example, remember I talked the last time about special immigrant. So it could be that the grandchild is living with the grandparents here, and there can be some evidence showing that the child has been abandoned by the parents, and now the grandparents are taking care of the child. The child is basically self-petitioning, so not necessarily grandparents are filing for them, but they
On to Esther. Esther, you're freezing up. I'm not. Your internet lagging, Esther? Not hearing it, Esther. I'm not sure. Seems as if Esther's internet, it was lagging at first. Maybe it's gone back to that. All right, she has logged out. So let's wait and see if she's gonna try and come back in. Hold on a bit. Let me see if I can hear from her. Internet is logging. All right, Esther is back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, you're logged out.
Yeah, the internet to try to fight me.
Yeah, we know the thing go. We know it go. How long does it take when a green card holder files for their husband to come?
So the last 5, almost 6 years, when a green card holder would file for their spouse, was being processed as quickly as a US citizen. So, it would take like 6-7 months type of thing. However, the numbers have now retrogressed. So I see a waiting time of like 2 years for the petition for green card holder spouses. So if somebody filed for their spouse today, it may be sometime in 2025 before their petition would get approved and then, continue processing.
Or this question was asked before, but I think they put some more to it. I overstayed my visa. I got married. I put in my paperwork, waiting for my interview, but I returned to Jamaica. What can I do?
Well, if it is that you left Jamaica, if it is that you left the United States and you did not apply for travel authorization and you have filed an I-485, you have now abandoned your application.
They
would have abandoned the application. So at this point, they would have to, if the petition is approved, then the spouse can perhaps now do consular processing, where we go through the National Visa Center and they process through the embassy in Jamaica.
Okay.
So that may be an option, but of course I'm only speaking based on the minimal facts that I just got. So
yes.
Be clear about that.
I think the answer is no. Somebody's asking if I take a year to renew my visa, would I lose it? No.
No. It's up to them if they want to give it back to you. They're so finicky.
There's nothing.
There's no rhyme or reason to how they do their renewals.
Yeah.
Use it. I've seen where they feel like you're not using it enough, and then other times, so it just varies.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're in a position to renew it, just renew it. Don't wait for when you really have to travel or there's an event or something or whatever it is, If it's time for renewal, just get it done. I think it's 6 months before they allow for the renewal.
Mm-hmm.
Think so.
I'm married. Somebody's saying here I'm married to a citizen and filed for my kids, all under 20. What's the average time for embassy to contact them in Jamaica? All under 20?
Well, that varies. If the petition is already approved, okay, let's put it this way. You can't really count the time for the embassy to contact them until they are documentarily qualified. Documentarily qualified means that the petition has been approved, the fees have been paid to the National Visa Center, their immigrant visa application is in, their police report is in, all the type of stuff is in. The NVC has reviewed it all. They say it's good. And they send an email to say, and all the fees have been paid. And they send an email to say you are now documentarily qualified. From that time to an interview date, you're probably looking at about a year.
Okay.
From that point.
Yes.
I recently had someone who was documentarily qualified in November getting an interview date for this November.
Okay.
So that's like, some places, like I have had some clients in Ghana. They got caught up in the COVID backlog. And so they waited 2 years from being documentarily qualified for their interview. But for Jamaica, it's not 2 years. Very rarely do you see someone with a 2-year wait.
Andrea, that question was answered before. You could adoption is the route to go.
Perhaps adoption or special immigrant. If the child is in Jamaica, then it probably be adoption.
Adoption, yes.
They should have some hoops to jump through, but perhaps, I don't know, because U.S. immigration does not like when relatives, it's so weird, but they're not a fan of when relatives here decide to adopt the child so they can come here, because they're basically saying, you're only adopting the child so they can come to the U.S. for immigration. Yeah, want to live a better life. I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, but they're not a fan of it, especially lately. And so if one parent is not deceased, or you can really show that the parents have truly abandoned that child or terminated their parental rights in some other way, it's really difficult to get that orphan petition approved. The other way would be that you'd have to go live in Jamaica with the child for 2 years or have.
Yeah.
I'm going deep into some adoption waters, but yeah.
Yeah. This person is saying boyfriend was denied on the day of his interview in 2016. Ex-wife never gave an explanation. Will I have a problem filing for him now? He has no receipt number or information about his case.
In a case like that, you would need to get a FOIA. And that is basically a copy of his file from USCIS. And that's something we do a lot for people. So if you want, we can help you with that. Contact us and we'll help you to get a FOIA. Put in a FOIA request for your boyfriend. And then it will give us, I won't say all, most of the documents that USCIS has for him. Some they will withhold for privacy reasons. But most times I get enough where I can see what has been going on to give, so that you can see some type of history as to what happened. So you know what was a previous immigration issue. Will you have problems? Will you have to jump through hoops? Will you need a waiver, or will you just have a straight shot?
Yes. Somebody said, I know someone was waiting for approval for I-130 from 2019. What can they do?
Well, this question is very broad because what is the category? Because if it's a brother filing for a sister, if it's a sibling petition, they have a wait time of like 12 years, not 12 years, 15 years. But if you're talking about waiting for an interview, then that's different. So if the person has an approved petition and they've been waiting for 3 years, perhaps with the NVC or with the embassy along those lines, then yes, that's something we can check into. But the way that question was worded just now, something is missing from it. I'm not sure I can give a proper answer to that question.
Jean, that was addressed, if the grandson is in Jamaica, adoption would be the route to go.
I mean, my son, another mother calls it. Yeah. Perhaps, yeah. She should call my office.
Yes.
I can put her on to a colleague who specializes in cases like that, because adoption has gotten very tricky. Back in the day, we could do them, like an immigration lawyer could have done adoption paperwork, but now they have narrowed it down to some adoption service providers with what do you call those people? Agencies. So now only a handful of attorneys in the country work alongside these agencies across the country to do these adoptions. But I have a very good friend, and she's excellent at it. She's in California. And she's good to even just assess the case. If she tells you there's no case, there is no case. Trust me.
Yeah. Let me see. Take two other questions, and then I've tried. What's this one saying? I try to return to my overstay visa and then send me back home. Yeah, man. That's the person who may have left the United States without getting the.
Is that the same person who said they were married and they came back to Jamaica?
Yeah, to Jamaica and didn't get authorized yet to travel, yeah.
Well, definitely, yeah, because they would. One reason is because if you've now applied to be, applied for a green card, then you have basically, you're no longer a visitor. So you're trying to come back to the US as a visitor. You're no longer a visitor. You have already submitted paperwork showing them your intent to live here in the United States. So they would never allow you to re-enter the country on a visitor visa after having applied for permanent residency.
Yeah. And the final question, someone is asking, how long does it take when a green card holder files for spouse?
And I'd mentioned that earlier that
yeah, you did.
It's taking a couple of years now for the petitions to be approved, probably more than a couple of years, because if the citizen one is taking a year now, the green card one is probably going to take, upwards of 2 years. It varies, the numbers fluctuate a lot. It can be this certain amount right now, and then by next week they change it again, or in a month or two. I've had clients where I'm telling them current processing time 12 months. 2 months later, it's 15 months. The client is like, well, you just told me 12 months. Yeah, but they've slowed down even more. So it varies. It varies. I think one of the biggest things for when dealing with USCIS and the NVC and the embassy is to know that quite often it's a waiting game. Quite often it's a waiting game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the number. That's Esther's number, office number on the screen. You can shoot a WhatsApp message to it on Monday. Esther, thanks a lot. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, man, sure.
Yeah, man, 2 weeks' time. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be back. And
yeah, hopefully my internet will not be jumping up and down this way.
It was good though. It was good. It was good.
Coughing like the last. I don't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure I have some water and stuff and all of that.
Yes.
Kind of prepare myself. Maybe I'm nervous. I'm start choke. I don't know.
You're not nervous, man.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, man. Well, in 2 weeks' time we'll talk again.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody was saying, hold on, one other thing. Somebody saying that this friend take them out of line. My friend was going to the US and immigration took her out of line and sent her back, and she doesn't know the reason.
They probably flagged her. They probably flagged your friend for something. Maybe she's traveling too much.
Yes.
Probably look at her travel history and trying to figure out why is it she's traveling that much. That's normally the number one reason for Jamaicans. When they get pulled out of the line and they get sent back, is because they have some type of information, some type of intel on them. That they've seen their travel history, and they have, or someone may have reported to them to say they were working without authorization. It's something along that line if you look into it. Now, if they genuinely are saying, you know, they've only traveled once and they never overstayed or whatever it is, then it's worth looking into at that point. But if it is that it's somebody going up all the time, staying 3-4 months at a time and stuff.
The person is saying, hold on, Esther. The person is following up saying it's the first time traveling on her 10-year visa.
It's the first time traveling on her 10-year visa.
That's what the person just said.
So they probably got flagged.
Yeah.
Probably got flagged. Perhaps the name is similar to somebody who has some type of immigration history.
So do you think she would be in trouble again? If she try to travel?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Wow.
It'd probably be good for her to get some type of well, it'd be good to see what type of paperwork she was handed when she was sent back. What did they say?
Because they would give her something.
Yes, they would have stamped something or asked her some questions. And if they asked her questions, they should have given her a copy of what they asked her. But that's pretty interesting. I'm thinking though that the name is similar to somebody who has some type of history. And so they just flag, the name comes up, they just flag you.
Is there any way a person like that could check out what is really happening if they're eligible?
We would have to do a FOIA. We would have to do a different type of FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests. And this one would be perhaps with CBP, Customs and Border Protection. I'd probably have to do a FOIA with them and a FOIA maybe with the Department of State to see what do they have in their possession.
So the person in Jamaica couldn't check it out from here. They would have to contact like a lawyer, you to check it out over there.
Yeah.
Oh,
probably
because it's not something where she can call the embassy and they're gonna give her any information.
Oh no. And the embassy, they don't even like me.
Yes.
The embassy rough. The embassy in Kingston, they're rough.
Yes.
But it'd be good to see what it is that, you know, there must be something that's triggering a response.
Yeah, man, and she needs to know, you know, because right now she needs to know what's happening. Yeah. All right, the cough coming on. So.
Come on again. Oh
my God. that's So in 2 weeks' time, Esther, we are gonna be here again.
I can't move it. Yeah,
man, you're good. Yeah, man, in 2 weeks' time. And we'll talk, and it was really helpful. Trust me, I'm sure a lot of persons got their questions answered. And
I saw somebody when I was in Jamaica. She told me that she learned a lot.
Yeah.
I saw her at church, and she came up to me. And she said, "Oh, I saw you on Popeyes, and I learned a lot from what you were saying." I was like, "Oh, nice. I like that."
So the thing said.
Yeah.
So take care of yourself, and thanks for being here. And we'll talk.
Man.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys. Take care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
So, my viewers and my subscribers, that is it. Want to learn nothing? Have you learned anything? Because me learn a whole heap, you know. Right, you know, me feel like an immigration lawyer. Trust me. You can ask me anything, and I'll be able to answer. At least based on what was discussed a while ago. Yeah, man. The lawyer is really warm. Trust me. Yeah, man. Esther. I've known Esther for a long while, you know, and I couldn't have I couldn't have called upon somebody different, trust me. You know, and Esther now put her nothing either, you know. If you should, Esther is very, very helpful. And you know, you have some lawyer where them a scam and you're afraid of them and them want to take away your money. Esther is about helping you. I mean, being a lawyer is her job, you know. So she's expected to be paid. You understand that? But she's gonna help you. If she can't help you, she's gonna tell you up front, say, this is it. Nobody waste your money. That is just Esther. You understand? So if you have any issues, any queries, link up Esther. 443. The number is right here. There's the number. And there's her email address as well. 443-312-9826. And the email address is esther@lawgriff.com. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back with another Ask the Immigration Lawyer series. Tell a friend, tell a friend. And remember, I posted the news earlier, so if you don't watch it already, go watch it now. Catch you tomorrow. Blessed love, everybody.